Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Tennille and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. And here we are with our third film of 1980.
Yeah.
We have 12 months.
From Toy and Soyuz Multifilm.
Yes, so a Japan and Soviet Union co-production.
Super cool.
It's super cool because it's a remake of the 1956 Soyuz Multifilm film of the same name.
Yeah, 12 months. We, of course, watched this back in Animation Pilgrimage 1956. That was the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's great seeing this again. I had a little... We were both... When we started watching this, we were both like, I don't really remember the story all that well. But then as we kept watching, I was like, yes, I remember this. I remember this. I remember this.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, a little differently.
Yes. So how about we start this off with a story synopsis? If you've been watching Animation Pilgrimage as we've gone along, you know the story already.
Yeah, because we rewatched this one.
But if you haven't watched the last time we talked about this film, let's fill you in on what the plot is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a young girl named Anya who lives with her stepmother and stepsister, and as you might expect, they treat her poorly, make her do all the chores, yada yada yada. One of the things that these step family members have her do is go out on New Year's Eve in what is starting to become a blizzard and get firewood. While out in the woods, she meets a soldier that works with the Queen, and he helps her get firewood, and she helps point him in the direction of a nice giant pine tree for the Queen's New Year's party.
Yeah.
They talk about the Queen a little bit, who it turns out is the same age roughly as Anya and is also an orphan because her parents died when she was younger.
So she is now Queen.
Yeah, so she's the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to spend a little bit of time with the Queen, and the Queen is a spoiled brat because she's the Queen. She has ultimate power over everything, and so what she says goes, even if it's wrong math questions. And she wants spring right now, so she's gonna have spring right now.
She can't be reasoned with because she's always right.
Mm-hmm. She's always right because she's the Queen.
Yeah.
So she wants to defy the laws of nature, and she wants April flowers right now. So she sets out a decree that anybody that brings her a basket of these flowers that only grow in April, they will get a basket of gold in return.
Mm-hmm.
So the stepmother and sister hear about this, and they send Anya out in the middle of a blizzard on New Year's evening to go freeze in the woods and die. Or find the flowers, whatever happens. They don't really
Whichever
care.
happens first, yeah. If Anya dies, they don't really care. But hey, if she does manage to find flowers, cool. They get a basket of gold.
So Anya goes out into the woods, almost dies, but then she comes across a fire around which are 12 people who are the 12 months. They are
spirits embodying the 12 months of the year.
Yeah, and it's neat because if you start with the spring months, they're all like young men, and then as you go around, they get older and older until you get to the winter months of January, February, December, January, and February, who are all like old men.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool touch. And because it is now January, because it is past the new year, that's why they're out here in the woods in the first place. They're passing along the torch, or should I say staff, to the next month.
Mm-hmm.
Because each of them wields a staff when it's their month to control the weather and stuff.
Yeah.
They let her warm herself by the fire, and they're like, hey, we're sentient god beings who know everything. Omniscient, that's the term.
Yes.
So we know that you, Anya, are a kind-hearted soul, and you feed the animals, and you do good things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to help you out. And so they pass the staff along to February, March, and then April to expedite the time in this small part of the woods so that she can actually get these April flowers that she was after.
Yeah.
They also give her, or April specifically, gives her a ring that if she ever needs to see them again, she just needs to throw it away and say a special special verse about going through the months, and they will come to her.
Mm-hmm. They'll come to her aid, but on the condition that Anya can never tell a soul about what has happened, how she got the flowers, meeting them.
Mm-hmm. He's like, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want people to know we exist.
Yeah.
So she goes home. The stepmother and sister obviously are thrilled about having the flowers.
Well, she essentially passes out in her bed.
Oh,
She's so cold and tired. But the stepmother and stepsister wake up. The next day, they find the flowers. The stepsister also sees Anya sleeping and sees the ring and steals it from her.
Yes, that is actually a small difference from the original.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the queen. They present the flowers, and they're like, here you go. And the queen's like, cool, where did you find these? And so they tell a big fib, and then the queen's like, cool, take me. And they're like, oh, no, we didn't actually do any of that. It was our stepdaughter that actually did it. So they coerce her into helping, otherwise they're going to be forced to smash rocks for the roads, which is another difference because in the original it was just beheadings.
Yeah, it was just they were gonna get killed.
No, instead it's forced manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
Yay! So they trick Anya into going back out into the woods, and they follow her, and the queen follows, and eventually they get back to the lake where all of this happened. And they told Anya that the queen took the ring, which is not true.
The stepsister still has it.
Yeah, the stepsister still has it, but when they get there, there's a whole where's the ring, and then eventually the queen does get the ring, and she's like, tell me where to get the flowers, and Anya's like, no, I can't.
Well, yeah, I can't. She refuses to break her promise to the brothers.
Mm-hmm. So the queen throws the ring into the lake. Anya says the thing. A blizzard sweeps her away, and then everyone left over is subjected to harsh weathers of the entire year. In order, like, so
they go through like a whole month of or a whole year of seasons.
Mm-hmm. And like during the fall, there's a giant wind that blows most of the random extra yes men to the queen away.
Mm-hmm.
So the only people left at the end are the stepmother, sister, the queen, and the nice guard that Anya met at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the random teacher man.
Yeah. The poor teacher
mm-hmm.
who is trying to do his job, but also
not die.
Yeah, but also not die.
So he has to like try to teach the queen, but also if she says, no, I'm right, then he's like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Mm-hmm. Not to belittle this teacher. I think if I was in this situation, I would try less of a like quiz format where you're asking her what the answers are,
mm-hmm.
and more of a this is just how it is type of learning structure.
Yeah, but also I feel like a different format of teaching, like something where you encourage her to do some self-discovery about how this actually works.
So that she comes to the correct conclusion herself.
Yeah, because she obviously thinks she's right all the time, so you need to figure out how to make her understand the correct information while also her understanding that she is right. Yeah. You have to lean into that as a teacher with this kind of student, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and also, like, he knows that, or he should know anyway, that a lot of the reason the queen is so difficult to teach is because she's bored with his teaching style.
Mm-hmm.
She's bored, and so she'll blatantly be like, 3 times 3 is 100, right, teacher? And he's like, yeah, yes, queen, but no. So,
yeah.
Anyway, tangent aside.
Yeah, tangent aside. We get to the end of the movie where we're back in winter and the queen has learned the lesson of maybe I shouldn't be such a tool.
She gets served a slice of humble pie.
Mm-hmm. Anya is back and she's got nice clothes and she's got a sleigh. And the 12 months are like, good job not telling anybody, but now we're revealing ourselves to these people anyways. The mother and sister are turned into dogs, and if they behave themselves and learn to be better people or dogs
Over 3 years.
in the next 3 years, they'll turn back into humans because they're manipulative, evil people.
Yeah.
And Anya, of course, being nice, allows the queen and her people to ride in the sleigh back to town where they won't freeze to death.
Mm-hmm. And then it's implied that Anya and the queen are going to be friends, and that's going to help the queen be better in the future because she'll know someone as good as Anya. And Anya is good because she's comes from humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings and cares about people and animals and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
And that, as they say,
is that. It's a very sweet story. We compared it originally to Cinderella in our first review, and I still think that's a very apt comparison.
Yeah. Not one-to-one, but
obviously, it's in the same kind of a vein of stories where it's, someone who has been downtrodden all their life. Karma. Yes. They get good karma. And they end up in a better place than when they started off.
So some comparisons, obviously, because we have to compare and contrast a bit here. Some comparisons I can see right off the bat is this remake is about the same length as the original, only about an hour long.
Which I find surprising because it feels so much faster.
Well, that's because they streamlined the story and they expanded the important character interactions in the movie. They cut a lot of the filler fluff of, in the original, there's a lot of scenes of just animals being cute. Yeah. And there were multiple songs and stuff like that. Cut all of it. This time it's literally just the characters that matter, their interactions with each other, and expanding the story in that way. It's
been extremely polished down. And I think that's both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
I miss some of the fillery stuff from the first movie.
I mean, that makes sense.
In particular, going back and watching the old review, I miss the stuff with the crow.
Yeah,
it has a really awesome voice.
Yeah, there was the crow in the original that was kind of was it the narrator or just
he kind of got the story going.
Okay,
I think he was kind of the narrator. And then there was this other song that was sung by a wolf, and it was just about him being lonely out in the woods. And it's complete filler, but it was really cool.
This version has no wolf.
There are a couple of songs in this film which are really well sung, and I liked the music in general.
The original music, obviously in Japanese, we had to watch in English though. So this is, I guess this is a little bit of a side note. We found the movie in English on YouTube at 240p, which was really frustrating.
Bad quality, unfortunately.
But we also found the movie completely in Japanese on archive.org. But
with no subtitles.
So all of the visuals that we're showing you are the higher quality in Japanese, but we had to watch in a lower quality, and then after we were done, we went and looked at the higher quality movie and just oh, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to look like. But honestly, the song, all of the music is the same in English and Japanese. The English writers wrote a song that went to the same melody.
They did a good job.
The Japanese version. It works very well.
Yeah.
And they have Anya sing it, and she does a very good job because she sings both the opening and ending versions. And honestly, I don't say this a lot, but the English dub was actually pretty good.
I'm glad that you said it because I think this one definitely deserves a...
Good job. You guys cared.
Yeah, it's you guys did a really good job with that. And I'm glad that they cared because it feels like this story, especially since it's already a co-production between Russia and Japan. And then to see the English dub take care to
present it in the best way possible and
Yeah.
put effort into it.
it just fills me with goodwill, you know?
It's so good. It's nice to see when, like, the dubbing team has the time and puts in the effort and has the money to do so and put on a good production.
I mean, we can only assume that they had all of those things.
Yeah, but at the very least, you can tell that they cared and had the talent to do it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes...
We've seen
the English dubbing teams that get the rights to these movies either A, don't care, 2, have 3 people to do it, and 3, just want to make a quick buck on a VHS rip of a foreign movie.
Yeah.
And the dub turns out pretty poor, but they don't care.
Well,
To
they
some
might
extent,
not care. Yeah. But yeah, this was really, really well done. Another thing I gotta commend is that I feel like this is such a mixed bag between the two versions of this.
Mhm.
There's things I really miss from the first one. And this is where I kind of have to talk about character design a little bit.
Yes.
I really, really miss the character designs of the brothers.
I 100% agree, because in the original 1956 version of this movie,
Mhm.
all of the brothers had visually distinct designs. They were
You
all
could
different
tell.
sizes and shapes. They wore different clothes. They all incorporated the season, or like the season, and then more specifically the month that they are representing. And in this version, they're all wearing the same clothes.
And in the original, the camera actually like
Paired the months together into the different seasons.
yeah, and you could tell from looking at them, like, you know, this is January,
Or like this is spring, summer, fall.
spring,
winter.
summer, fall, yeah, all the different seasons and the months, and they give them just a little bit more time in the original movie, whereas in this movie, they really only care about January and April.
Yeah, January and April. December and February also get like one line to say each.
Mm-hmm.
But other than them being young to old, they all look the same. They all wear the same cape hood thing. They all have the same clothes underneath. The only difference is like body shape and facial hair differences.
Yeah.
But like even then, in general, the character design is a lot more, I want to say more anime realistic.
It's more polished.
Yeah,
I
there
think-
aren't such vast differences in shapes and proportions as there were in the original.
Well, and I think that other than one other character, who I think I still prefer the original design, and that is the old guard.
Mm-hmm.
I like the original guard more than the new one that was in this one. But the other character designs I think are
Both are
quite
good.
a step up.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Queen's new design is a really great reinterpretation of the character. Anya, the stepmother, the stepsister and stepsister in particular, just had a lot more care put into their designs other than them just being like
fat
and ugly in the
Mhm.
first one. Like,
Yeah.
that's really the nicest way to put it, is they were just ugly because they're ugly people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one, they have actual bit more character design put into them.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bit more personality between the two. In general, I just think it's slightly better on that front.
One other thing I want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
is the new movie does a much better job with things like camera movement and
Oh, yeah.
framing and general pacing of the movie, because I mean that's just to be a given, because this is made nearly 30 years later.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more experience and know-how. The animation itself is a lot less frames because it's Japan and that's how they do everything. They cut
Right.
down on the frames, so it makes the actual animation more of a which do you prefer
Yeah.
in my head. It's like
this is a much cleaner experience. It's
Yes.
a much more polished experience. However, what you're going to miss from the original movie is that unpolished, like really ambitious charm. The original film had Russian horses.
Oh, the horses
which were so good.
So good.
So good.
And like there are moments with all the other characters that just look great.
Yeah.
This version, you just never get any of that. The characters
You don't get any fantastic animation, but it's all good animation.
It's all good animation.
And it's all
the
presented
whole time.
really well. Whereas
Yes.
in the old one, you had some really floaty animation that just didn't work because they were experimenting with something and it just didn't pan out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so you get
It's
a
a
lot
real
more
mixed
peaks
bag.
and valleys in the last one, whereas this, it's very consistently,
It's
good.
all good,
yeah,
but never fantastic,
yeah, exactly.
which I think is an important thing to note.
Mm-hmm. Same can be said for the story structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's been polished so that you get the story and the theme is very clear and the character motivations are very clear. Whereas in the last one, it was less clear because there was a lot more tangents and
Mm-hmm.
like little comedy bits going on with character animation because they were really, really pushing character animation in the first film. And in this one, those kinds of things are cut out.
They're
because it's
Mhm.
just focused on telling the story. So again, like, there's not a one is better than the other situation here. It's you're going to get a pretty different but similar experience
Mm-hmm.
depending on what one you want to watch.
I obviously don't know this, but
Mhm.
I'm sure Soyuz Molten had some level of input, but it felt like Toei probably had most of the control over the movie. And
The directors
Mhm.
were all Japanese, if I remember looking at the credits properly. So I feel like Soyuz Molten Film were probably creative consultants, but not necessarily in charge of anything directly.
yeah, and I think they mostly get the credit because they made the original film that this movie is remaking.
Yeah, and the director of the original film, Ivanez, I hope I said that correctly. I didn't write his name down again, but hopefully I got that right. He was still alive when this version of the film came out. I think he died in 1986. So he would have still been alive when this came out, but I did not see him listed in the credits or anything for this film. I also didn't see any kind of like of his reaction to the movie or anything like that. So I don't know if, they got the original
what he
director
even thought.
back.
Yeah, what he thought on the film.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure about that. However, I do want to go into a little bit more about the production of this film. Unfortunately, could not find much, which really disappointed me.
It's a remake of a movie from another country.
It's like there's gotta be some history here.
We can't find it.
And another thing I found interesting is that the film we watched after this was The Snow Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've got to be like, well, why didn't they adapt Snow Queen? Was there talks to adapt Snow Queen? Because The Snow Queen is usually considered to be, a masterpiece of Russian animation.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like, oh, well, that one's too good to touch, so we want to do this one? Did somebody on the production team particularly
like this movie in particular?
Yeah, like this story in particular. Osamu Tezuka worked on this.
What?
Yeah, he's a
Dude,
character designer
He's just
and
everywhere.
yeah, and he's one of the producers. He's not a director, but a producer.
Okay.
So he's to thank for a lot of the character designs.
Interesting, because none of these scream like Osamu Tezuka designs.
They don't really, but apparently he was the character designer. Music was performed by Vladimir Ivanich Christov, which, that definitely seems, maybe that's where the more Russian influence came in. It was the music.
Oh, they might have just had them do the music for them.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
It was performed by the National Leningrad Philharmonic.
Oh, then yeah, definitely
Mm-hmm.
Soviet Union music there.
Yeah. So maybe that's where most of the collaboration took place.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to touch on, and this is something we This is totally my bad, but I wanted to go over the author of the original story, Samuel Marshak, who was a Jewish Russian citizen and the original writer of the Fairy Tale of 12 Months. He's known in Russia as kind of a father of children's literature of his time. He also translated many of Shakespeare's works to Russian.
Okay.
I just gave like a very brief look over like his Wikipedia page. Dude seemed to have a really interesting life, and it was due to like one of his daughters dying early on in age that kind of led him to wanting to write children's literature. Made him very passionate about telling stories for kids, and like he and his wife wrote stories together. From the sounds of it, he lived in both Russia and England, and then he also like went to the Middle East, and that's where he met his wife. And I was just like, wow, this guy seems to have had a really interesting life and seems to be, you know, pretty well beloved in Russia. So I thought it was a shame that I just kind of said like, oh, you know, this guy I didn't even remember the name of wrote the original story in the original episode of the 1956 film. So I wanted to amend that and talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah. Like I said, though, unfortunately, not a lot of other info about this film. But I think both of these are really good films worth checking out.
Honestly, I like both of them. I suggest people check out both versions of the movie and then tell us which version you guys prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Or what elements of the one over the other you like and the other over the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch them both.
Mm-hmm.
And then join us back here next time as we stay in Japan again.
Oh my god. Japan.
We're going to be watching Toward the Terra from Toei Animation in Japan. Are you ready for another multi-hour space opera, Tennille?
Oh.
Me too.
Oh.
See you guys then.
So the day goes, always chores that must be done, but for me, love's a stranger, but for me, it's a life without a happy